Thursday, August 4th. Something about that moment stayed with me. When Jason Morgan returned and looked at Danny, there was a profound heaviness in his eyes that I couldn't stop thinking about. At first, it didn't seem important. We all just assumed it was the natural exhaustion of a man who had survived a grueling WSB captivity and finally made it home to his son. It is easy to look at Jason's sudden declaration that he is leaving Sonny Corinthos' organization entirely and chalk it up to a father's epiphany. Yes, the agonizing loss of Sam shifted his entire universe. It made him starkly aware that Danny needs a living, breathing father, not a ghost or a faded mob legend. But Jason has tried to walk away from the violence before, and the magnetic pull of the underworld always drags him back into the crossfire. This time, however, the absolute finality in his voice felt entirely different. It felt like a transaction had been completed in the dark. I keep coming back to the way Jason spoke about his time away, carefully omitting the darkest details, shielding Danny and Carly from the absolute truth of what he endured. The more I think about it, the more I realize that Jason's sudden transformation isn't just about healing from trauma. It is about leverage. When a man like Jason Morgan walks away from the only life, the only family structure he has ever truly known, he doesn't do it just because he had a sudden change of heart. He does it because a deal was struck behind closed doors. We know he took the fall for Rocco Falconeri shooting Ross Cullum. We know Jocelyn Jacks brokered a highly classified deal with WSB head Z to secure his release. But what if we're missing something massive? What if the true price of Jason's freedom and the guaranteed protection of his family was a blood oath to sever all ties with Sonny's empire? Jason is a man of rigid honor, even within the criminal underworld. To completely abandon Sonny, especially when Sonny is surrounded by lethal enemies like Jen Sidwell, requires a motivation that transcends standard loyalty. It requires a hostage situation of the soul. And that brings me to a theory that has been quietly keeping me awake. Maybe there's another layer here, a layer so deeply buried that even Jason is afraid to look at it too closely. I keep wondering whether Sam is actually gone. What if she is still alive, held in some undisclosed black site WSB prison, being used as the ultimate unseen bargaining chip? Jason's complete capitulation to the WSB's terms, his sudden willingness to walk away from his entire identity as a mob enforcer, makes terrifying sense if he is doing it to ensure Sam's eventual return or her continued safety from afar. He would willingly burn his own world to the ground to protect the mother of his child. If this is the case, his departure from the mob isn't a peaceful retirement, it is an ongoing ransom payment. And Sonny Corinthos, a man who demands absolute, unquestioning loyalty, is completely oblivious to the agonizing sacrifice Jason might be making in silence. Something feels unfinished in Sonny's reaction to Jason's departure. Sonny is not a man who handles abandonment well, no matter the justification. He might verbally accept Jason's need to prioritize Danny, especially since Jason protected his nephew Rocco from a prison sentence, but internally, Sonny is bleeding out. He is losing his right-hand man, his most lethal enforcer, and his brother right at the exact moment when the board is resetting in Port Charles. With Jason stepping down, a massive power vacuum violently opens up. Sonny is going to realize very quickly that he is dangerously vulnerable. The enemies are circling, the territory is unguarded, and without Jason to flawlessly execute his orders, Sonny will be forced to find a new lieutenant or step directly into the line of fire himself. This desperate vulnerability could push Sonny to make reckless alliances, perhaps leaning harder on his complex dynamic with Ava Jerome or the ambitious ADA Justine Turner, blurring the dangerous lines between his criminal empire and his personal vendettas. But Sonny isn't the only one playing a highly dangerous game with unseen consequences. Let's talk about Valentine Cassadine. I can't shake the feeling that Valentine is walking a fraying tightrope over an active volcano. He is actively romancing Carly Spencer, drawing her deeper into his chaotic orbit while simultaneously trying to decode the mysteries of that black box he retrieved from Windermere. Valentine confidently claims he wants to sell it to the WSB for a massive payday, but it doesn't seem accidental that he is keeping the true volatile nature of this box a secret from Carly. Valentine is historically a master strategist, but right now he is acting incredibly recklessly. He is trying to leverage Jack Brennan, demanding his frozen assets be released in exchange for the box. But Valentine, blinded by his own hubris and his desire to secure a future with Carly, is severely underestimating the apex predator he is dealing with. When Anna Devane approaches Valentine, I don't think she is just warning him about Sonny's inevitable jealous rage. Yes, Sonny enlisting Brick to dig up dirt and sabotage Carly and Valentine's romance is a ticking time bomb, but Anna's concerns go much, much deeper than a mob boss's bruised ego. She is the chief of police again. Her instincts are sharper than ever, even as she battles her own internal demons and hallucinations. I have a strong suspicion that Anna already knows a crucial piece of the truth about that black box. She knows it isn't just a simple bargaining chip. It is a live grenade waiting to detonate. Anna is trying to warn Valentine because she suspects he is being pulled into a massive, overarching conspiracy orchestrated by the WSB and Jack Brennan. She sees Valentine positioning himself as a powerful player, but she knows he is actually being set up as a disposable pawn. And knowing Valentine, his stubborn pride won't let him listen to Anna's warnings until the trap has already snapped shut around him. This brings us to Jack Brennan, the man who is quietly, ruthlessly pulling every single string in Port Charles from the shadows. Brennan is easily the most dangerous person in the room right now because he doesn't need to hold a gun to control the entire narrative. He is actively using Valentine Cassadine as a human shield. By letting Valentine hold the black box and initiate the negotiations, Brennan is expertly ensuring that any lethal blowback from the WSB, Jen Sidwell's lingering allies, or other enemies hits Valentine first. Brennan is standing comfortably in the shadows, orchestrating the chaos without getting his own hands dirty. And his psychological manipulation extends far beyond Valentine and the WSB's cold fusion remnants. He has deeply embedded himself into the fragile lives of Nina Reeves and Willow Kane, exploiting their fears for his own gain. Nina is currently operating out of pure, unadulterated desperation. She just pushed a recovering Drew Kane into the freezing lake in a panicked attempt to protect Willow's dark secrets. She is spiraling out of control, and in her frantic state, she is clinging to Jack Brennan as her ultimate savior. Brennan promised to secure the blackmail material needed to neutralize Drew, and Nina is blindly, foolishly trusting. But maybe, just maybe, Valentine will figure out exactly what Brennan is doing and try to warn Nina to stay far away from the former WSB director. The tragic irony is that Nina won't listen to a single word of caution. She is so fiercely determined to protect her daughter from prison that she will walk willingly, even gratefully, into Brennan's trap. She genuinely thinks she is forming a strategic alliance, but Brennan is simply acquiring a highly motivated, easily manipulated new asset. If Brennan decides to use Nina's attempted murder of Drew against her, Nina will find herself entirely at his mercy, trapped in a suffocating nightmare of her own making. And what happens when Jocelyn Jacks uncovers this tangled, toxic web? Jocelyn has been riding high on adrenaline, feeling like a master spy after brutally taking down Ross Cullum and brokering high-level deals with Z to free Jason and Valentine. She thinks she understands exactly how the intelligence game is played. But if she discovers that Jack Brennan, the very man her mother is terrified of, is secretly aiding Nina Reeves and Willow Kane, her entire perspective will violently shift. Jocelyn absolutely despises Nina. If she sees Brennan protecting the woman she hates most, she won't view him as a complex anti-hero or a useful WSB contact anymore. She will instantly brand him as the ultimate villain. Jocelyn's self-righteous fury could lead her to launch a reckless, one-woman crusade against Brennan, completely oblivious to the terrifying fact that she is wildly outmatched by a seasoned, ruthless intelligence director who destroys lives for sport. While the WSB drama unfolds with explosive potential, there is a quieter but equally devastating storm brewing at the Quartermain mansion. Brooklyn is desperately trying to hold her fragile marriage to Harrison Chase together after the disastrous fallout of her hit-and-run framing plot against Willow. She thinks the worst is finally behind her, that Chase's forgiveness means they can move forward. But I have a terrible feeling about the news she is about to receive regarding baby Phoebe. It's possible this isn't just a standard bureaucratic delay in the adoption process. Someone is intentionally hiding a massive, dangerous secret about that little girl. We know Ethan Lovett confessed he isn't the biological father, and the mysterious executive Hudson has just arrived in town aggressively searching for someone. What if Hudson is Phoebe's real father? Or what if Phoebe's true lineage ties back to a dangerous international syndicate? Brooklyn is about to realize that the child she loves is the center of a dark mystery, and this revelation could completely shatter her family right at the finish line. Across town, the ghosts of past decisions are slowly coming back to haunt Dante Falconeri. Dante crossed a massive, unforgivable ethical line when he deliberately destroyed police evidence to protect his teenage son, Rocco, from the legal fallout of shooting Ross Cullum. He did what any desperate, terrified father would do, but in Port Charles, sins never stay buried in the archives. I keep coming back to Elizabeth Baldwin. She is incredibly observant, deeply empathetic, and her romantic relationship with Dante has been growing steadily deeper. What happens when she inevitably uncovers exactly what Dante did? Elizabeth has always possessed a strong, sometimes rigidly inflexible, moral compass. She will be thrust into an agonizing, impossible dilemma that will test the very core of who she is. If Elizabeth decides to keep Dante's secret, she becomes an active accessory after the fact, risking her own freedom, her nursing career, and her newly acquired position on the hospital board. She would be compromising everything she stands for. But if Elizabeth tells the truth, she destroys Dante's career, his freedom, and the fragile trust of his entire extended family. She would be sending the man she is falling in love with to a prison cell. This isn't just a plot point. It is a profound emotional crisis. Dante is already carrying the immense, crushing weight of his guilt, stepping down as police chief to make way for Anna. If he realizes Elizabeth knows his dark secret, the paranoia will eat him alive. The tension between them will become absolutely suffocating. You can almost feel the walls closing in on Dante. He thought he buried the truth deep enough to save his son, but he might have just dug his own grave and handed the shovel directly to the woman he loves. Then there is Trina Robinson. Trina has been through absolute hell over the last year, constantly navigating the turbulent, exhausting waters of her parents' endless drama and the lingering trauma of her own past. But her upcoming conversation with Kai Taylor feels like a pivotal, defining turning point. It's possible this chat won't just be about Drew Kane's miraculous recovery or the unexpected return of Kai's friend Quinn. I see this as the exact moment Trina finally draws a hard, immovable line in the sand. She is entirely done being a passive participant in other people's chaotic narratives. Trina is taking the reins of her own life, focusing intensely on her rising music career with Giovanni and demanding the independence she so richly deserves. When Quinn tries to make amends for his past mistakes, I don't think Trina is going to offer him immediate, easy absolution. She is learning to fiercely protect her own peace. Her decisions moving forward are going to profoundly shock the people around her because they are so used to the old Trina, the sweet girl who always compromised her own happiness to keep the peace for her family. The new Trina is fiercely independent, laser focused, and she is not going to let anyone, whether it's Quinn, Portia, or Curtis, dictate her future or drag her down. She is stepping fully into her power, and it is both beautiful and slightly terrifying to watch because it means she is finally willing to cut ties with absolutely anyone who holds her back from her destiny. As we look at the entire board, it is crystal clear that every single character is standing precariously on a hidden trapdoor. Jason is building a new life on a fragile foundation of unspoken sacrifices, potentially holding on to the ghost of Sam while leaving Sonny completely defenseless against the wolves. Valentine is arrogantly dancing with the devil, blind to the terrifying fact that Jack Brennan is the one holding the pitchfork. Nina is eagerly trading her soul for Willow's safety, while Jocelyn prepares to light a match to the whole powder keg. Brooklyn is fighting a losing battle for a child whose past might destroy her future, and Dante is agonizingly waiting for the hammer of justice to fall from the hands of the woman he loves. None of these intricate threads are tying into a neat, satisfying bow. They are tangling, pulling tighter, threatening to violently snap. The shadows beneath the story are growing longer and darker by the minute, and I can't shake the feeling that when the brutal truth finally breaks the surface, there won't be anywhere left to hide.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.